Okay. Hi, everybody. See, the reason why we're late is because, as you can see, no one else has joined. Only Ajay is here. And I want to thank him. He's looking like a Neta today. Maybe that's why he's joined on time. But
Fortunately, I'm alluring towards a profession. These days on a sabbatical, it's very difficult to tell
oh.
people as to what you're doing. So if this declares a semblance of moving towards something definitive, I should rather welcome that.
Yeah. And if you need, like, all netas have like those 2, 3 lackeys around them. So if you need people for that work, I can send AIM and Pallavi so that it looks like you have also your lackeys,
And
when you
ambush
move
from
on.
day one with
Huh?
him and Pallavi together. I'd rather have you as my publicist.
Oh, thank you. I will be very happy to do that. But anyway, any reservations in that? Because now we're entering the era of reservations and gender and all of those things, and that really brings me to what we want to start the conversation off with. And Ajay, no one better than you to talk about this is the caste, the demand for the caste census, and of course the government saying that we're going to have the caste census along with the national census. Some people are saying it's a masterstroke because it's blunted the opposition's power. And Rahul Gandhi, who was basically riding on the caste census, which, might I add, is something that he also stole from Nitish and Tejasvi. But nonetheless, he was that was kind of his plank. That's been taken away from him. While others are saying that the government has capitulated. But has the government capitulated, or are they going along with Nitish, who is getting into an election alliance with them right now in the next couple of months? So they're keeping him happy as well. What's happening?
Let me put up a picture in the reverse order.
Mhm.
Uh, in one of my columns, post the declaration by the Union Cabinet that caste census would be part of the general census. Uh, I had approached it with this particular notion. See, Bihar elections is around the corner in 25. That's the biggest election that we have. Thereafter, in 26, you have Assam, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal as three big ticket elections in 26. And Kerala also in
And Kerala,
26.
Kerala,
Yes.
yeah.
So, these are these big ticket elections which are there for the next 1.5 years. And then the elections of all the assembly elections, the mother of all, UP elections in 27 February. If you look at the entire North Indian dynamics, not that it doesn't apply in South India, look at Karnataka, the caste obviously plays up. But the entire North Indian politics is governed by caste politics. There is a kind of a saturation which is coming towards the so-called religion-based polarization. You can only have it so much, as most commentators would like to say. So what is it that virtually drives the voters? The caste. And what else is a better manner than to galvanize the entire caste cauldron and get people hooked onto it? And I would give it to the BJP that as a political party, their ambition and their mandate or thought process would be to win election at any cost. Look at every utterance of Amit Shah, for that matter, and to a much slightly moderate extent by Mr. Modi. It is elections is a winning machine. You have to win an election. You have to fight every day for an election. And winning an election is not only about politics, it's a step ahead. So, given this background, I think this is one of the ways in which the BJP can further endear itself to the castes which are still not in its fold and secure votes. Beginning with, naturally, Bihar, where the caste consciousness is at an absolutely different level. I mean, the caste consciousness is even to a small village of less than 50 houses. So that's what you're looking at in a state, and they have to continue the momentum after Haryana, Maharashtra, Delhi. If you have a break in Bihar, then obviously things go haywire in 26. Please remember in 2015, it was on the basis of reservation, a slight invocation by Mohan Bhagwat by saying that can we continue the benefits of reservation endlessly? should we not talk about it, costed the BJP the election.
No, I think that's been overstated. That was spun.
Maybe that's
It was not,
that was
and I think Arun Anandji can come in on this. And this was definitely something that was spun and hung on him, when that is exact not even what he.
I'm not saying, no, 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 you're not getting me right. I said, I'm not saying that this is what it was obviously utilized as a political salve against the Sangha Parivar and the BJP. But then
I'm gonna Arunji,
this is
yeah.
what was the feeling within the BJP also in 15. Anand may correct me if I'm wrong, that
Uh,
it did damage the BJP and its
that was
prospect.
the narrative. That was the narrative. Now.
Precisely. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, that was the narrative. But Arunji
That's
will
what
have more details. Arunji, come in, please.
See, uh, thank you for inviting me, Adwaita, and it's always pleasure to be there on your show, especially with Ajayji being there. So, in this metropolitan life, we are not able to meet, especially during the Delhi summers. People don't tend to get out of their houses. So, but it's good to meet online and, listen to Ajayji. It's always a pleasure and a privilege. See, the thing is that one thing is very clear that the RSS, this statement of Mohan Bhagwatji. So generally, whenever there is a controversy, so there is a very cliched kind of a counter argument that this was quoted out of context. So it was actually basically also quoted out of context. I'll tell you what the context was in which he was speaking, and that is the context which RSS has always followed ever since the beginning. In fact, when you look at the issue of reservations, so first I'll clarify basically what is my understanding of Mohan Bhagwatji's statement. So, what he was saying that uh, if anybody has to decide when this reservation should end, it should be basically the beneficiaries of these reservations. So they have to decide when to end it, and in that context, probably the statement came, that whether you want to continue it endlessly or not continue endlessly or discontinue, but the decision has to be taken by the beneficiaries of these reservations. In fact, in 1981, the RSS had passed a resolution. I think I had mentioned it in last discussion also. Probably I don't remember, but in 1981, the RSS had passed a resolution saying that reservations should continue, and reservation should continue till the beneficiaries of the reservation feel that okay, they do not need any more reservations. So that was way back. Mandal Commission came in 1980, and the OBC politics started after that. But that was the statement. And in fact, in 1974, the third Sarsanghchalak of the RSS, that is generally known as the chief of the RSS, Balasaheb Devras. So he addressed Vasant Vyakhyan Mala in Pune, a lecture series, and in that he gave a speech which has become a milestone in the mm, as far as the RSS is concerned. It's a guiding beacon as far as their stand on issue of caste is concerned. So Balasaheb Devras famously said that if untouchability is not a crime, then nothing is a crime in this world. So he had taken basically a cue from Abraham Lincoln's statement when Abraham Lincoln had said during the Civil War in America that if slavery is not a crime, that nothing is a crime in this world. So that has been the guiding beacon. Even if you go 10 years before that, so almost about 10 years, so around 1964 when Vishwa Hindu Parishad was set up. So one of the prime aims of setting up a Vishwa Hindu Parishad uh, was basically to bring all the dharmacharyas on one platform and ensure that a message should go from them that there should not be any caste based discrimination, any kind of discrimination in the Hindu society. And the first World Hindu Conference, Vishwa Hindu Sammelan, which took place in the Prayagraj Mahakumbh in 1966. So all the dharmacharyas came together. And you'll be just an anecdotal thing. When the Vishwa Hindu Parishad was set up, it was set up in the Chinmay Ashram in Mumbai. And when the first meeting had taken place, so even representatives from Akali Dal were also present. And Swami Chinmayanand of Chinmaya Mission, of course, he played an important role. But that was the first time. Just imagine in 1960s, the public discourse was not so emancipated, and there was still rampant, caste discrimination. So at that time, and Sangh was seen mostly as a kind of a Maharashtrian Chitta Pavan Brahman run organization. So at that time, to come out and to set up this kind of a discourse, so that showed the intent of the RSS. I'll also take you a little bit behind that, a little bit more in terms of the
Even
history.
Anand, even Guruji, the gathering he arranged of the different Shankaracharyas.
Yes, that was, I
Yeah,
think, probably this thing for the first time,
they all
and
came to one
that is
stage.
why the RSS, especially in the 1970s. I just want to share with your viewers, it created a major focus on the Seva Karyas, basically the service projects, and currently through Seva Bharati and through other organizations, inspired organizations. So they are running about 2 lakh welfare projects, which are largely for marginalized sections of the society, which constitutes a large section of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. And in fact, Mahatma Gandhi had visited an RSS camp in 1934 in Varda, and he was pleasantly surprised to see.
44,
Yeah,
44. But
no, no,
but
34. No, in 34, I'll tell you. In 1934, Mahatma Gandhi visited the Varda camp. In 1939, Dr. Ambedkar visited a Shakha, an RSS Shakha in Dapoli, in Maharashtra. And in 1948, there is a report in the weekly newspaper, the Harijan, that weekly magazine which Mahatma Gandhi used to edit and bring out, in which he addressed basically a gathering of volunteers at Valmiki Mandir in uh, the New Delhi area, the Pachkunya Road. So on Mandir Marg basically, and where a large number of RSS volunteers were present. And I've quoted that several times in my article from the report from the event which was reported in Harijan. That he said that that I had visited and the RSS camp, and I'm saying this because there are a lot of people who raised doubt about the historicity of the claim which RSS makes, that Mahatma Gandhi had visited the RSS camp. So whether he had visited or not, so just to
correct, got it.
yeah,
They were invited by Nehru to the Republic Day parade. Their photographs and
I'll
people.
I'll tell you, I'll
But we'll
I'll
come back to that. Arunji, I need to get the caste census thing going again. So, just your quick thoughts on the caste census, and then we'll go to Sandeep.
See, caste census is a political reality. In fact, many people think that suddenly this rabbit has come out of the BJP's hat. But if you look at as far as from the RSS perspective, I'll tell you that last October there was this Karyakari RSS highest decision making body Karyakari Mandal. So they had a bathak, they had a meeting and their annual meeting, and during that a press conference was addressed. I think the RSS Sarkar Dattatreya Hosavale, probably he was addressing that as far as I can recall, and he had there the RSS had made it stand clear that we do not oppose caste census. Caste census should be done, but the fact that this data should be used for social welfare schemes and not for political purposes. And I'll also tell you my understanding of why the government has gone for caste census, because there are a lot of states which Telangana did that this caste census, earlier Bihar did that, then but these were not
Karnataka.
census. Yeah, but then Karnataka, but these were not actually census. These were surveys which were conducted by them. So on the basis of some, sample data which they collected, they extrapolated. Now that, has led to lot of bitterness and lot of infighting within different social groups within the society. That can cause acrimony because the data itself is, kind of not
Unreliable.
systematic. So if you do the census, so at least for once and all, nobody can manipulate the data sets. You will have
Correct.
authentic data. So I think that is the reason, so that states should not be doing sample surveys, and there is always a possibility that because of political kind of considerations, so the data can be manipulated. So I think that is the
Right.
context basically from which this government has gone for caste census, and that is why RSS has also not opposed caste census, or rather favored caste census.
Okay, thank you. Sandeep, who we can kind of see. But Sandeep, very quickly, our friend Rahul Gandhi is now saying that there should be reservations in the private sector as well. As our resident CEO, what do you make of that suggestion? You've got to unmute yourself.
I think Advaita, that though that's the Pandora's box which has been opened here, and that shows that there is a why people are talking about this being a knee-jerk reaction or some kind of a sudden this thing is because all these ramifications had to be thought through. And the problem with this whole issue is, it's not about being pro-caste census or anti-caste census. I think there is a lot of disingenuity which has crept into the narrative and the discourse. In a political situation, you are always, you can always review, revisit your stand. You're not, everything is not cast in stone or concrete for that matter, and you can change. But right now, today, to suddenly take this U-turn and say that, oh, as if it's a masterstroke, whereas just a few weeks ago, everybody was opposing it. That is what has rattled, I think, the all sections, including when you're talking about the corporate sector and other things. If there is no consistency in the thinking, so if Rahul Gandhi is today saying private sector, there is nothing for people to think that BJP was going to take a different stand 1 year or 2 year down the line. You could hear
Yeah.
again maybe BJP making the same statement, yes, private sector reservation, and calling it a master stroke. So, that is this competitive populism. First you say rowdies, and then you succumb to rowdies yourself. Then you say no caste census, now you do caste census, but no reservations you talk of. It's a slippery slope. And that's what I think, when we are talking about the country, ease of doing business, etc., the biggest thing is a matter of confidence, whether it is the businessmen or individuals. And I think here, the confidence is getting totally shattered because people don't understand what's going to happen next.
Oh wow. Um, Ajay, what do you want to? How do you want to respond to that? We're getting into election season, and
See, that's exactly the point I was trying to make. Mr. Ghosh really got it on the dot. See, from an election point of view, caste census could make sense. And it can be called a master stroke, which a word itself doesn't mean anything. But if you look at the ramification of caste as a reality, the due process of enumeration of caste, as per data available in 1931, there were 4,300 odd castes which are factored in. In 2011, under a lot of pressure when the UPA government was trying to do a simulation of a caste census, then there were something like 2.5 lakh castes which were in consideration in India. And today you're looking at anything above 5 lakh castes in India. How do you, A, statistically, you know, get this thing together and worked it out? There are castes, there are subcastes, there are subcaste within castes. So forget the mathematical and the statistical behemoth that we are looking at. Look at the ramifications. What is it that you're going to really do with caste? Can you do targeted subsidy to specific castes? Has it been done till now? No, sir. You can only do reservation. And has a reservation yielded the results that it really should? Let me just put you some data and you would put a context to it. Between 2012 and 2023, the vacancies in the central government for OBC, SC, and ST category was anything around 88,000. Do you know how many posts were left vacant because competent candidates could not be found? 54,000. There are not enough competent candidates to fill in the reserved categories. And this is when the proportionate cutoff mark for competent people within the OBC, SC, and ST is approximately 35 to 60% lower than the general category. And this is not only for the jobs, this applies for educational institutions as well. So, what are you trying to do? There is a survey which was conducted in AIMS, a PhD survey, which has not been publicized. That gentleman had to shelve his PhD thesis because the patients do not want to be treated by quota doctors. Let's face reality. This is the India that you live in. So, what are you trying to do? The Supreme Court had to actually intervene and get the creamy layer in. And what is the definition of creamy layer? Somebody who's already worked in the government or is earning 8 lakhs and above. What is 8 lakh rupees per annum today? Please tell me. So when you are looking at this, now let me get further data into you and you will understand. Of the OBC category in Bihar, do you know what is the usual representation of Yadavs in government services in Bihar state? It is approximately 34%. The total Yadav population in Bihar is 14%. So who's getting benefits? One caste. Let's look at the UP police. How many Yadav as a force form part of UP police? 38%. What is the total caste strength of Yadavs in Bihar? UP. Anything between 12 to 15%. So is this not disproportionate representation of castes within the reservation category and the reservation being misused? And you extend this now to private sector. You extend this to judiciary. So do you want judiciary to be biased or what? I mean, now there is a demand for SC, ST reservation by Tejasvi Yadav in judiciary also. Why not in judiciary? So you reserve quotas for the High Court and the Supreme Court judges also. So will they specifically look at cases of the SC, ST and OBC only? And what are we looking at by the basis of the 3 state surveys, caste surveys as done? The upper castes form not more than 12%. On a national level, it will be less than 10%. So what do you want to do? Bring the reservation to 90%? Rather, it will be better that you eject these 10% upper caste Hindus for these so-called alleged crimes of their forefathers done some 500 years ago. We are opening not just a Pandora's box, we are actually dividing the country into the Reassessings that were. We want to do that, most welcome.
Ajay seems to be an expert on these classification. Ajay, I'm told Bengalis are OBCs in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Can you confirm for me?
No, sir, not all Bengalis.
Yeah, all Bengalis are apparently historically has been as part of the OBC list. Please, maybe a little research, and on the next program you can tell us.
Why are you planning?
Anything, yeah. Advaita, even you might start claiming your Bengali roots, and Abhijit may shed his Tamil.
I have Bangladeshi roots, but it's true.
No, but Mr. Ghosh, I'll seriously find this out. If this happens, I'll ask my wife to start and go practice in Madhya Pradesh High Court. At least there will be some benefit coming out to us.
Okay, Abhijit has just shared. Oh, okay, interesting. There's a standing committee on information technologies issued a memorandum where there's action against the social media influencers, social media platforms working against national interest. This is just dropped. Abhijit, you want to tell us more about this?
Yes, they're asking for an immediate ban on any social media influencers or channels, so Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, that is deemed against the national interest for this seems to be run up to a pre-war emergency.
Oh boy.
Add it up with the civil defense measures that have been announced. Look, all wars, emergency is imposed. Okay, we don't talk about it, but emergency notification.
But does that mean there's a war going to happen? Is that what it indicates?
Look, everything that I'm seeing seems to indicate that this is not going to be some one-off strike. This is going to be something very, very serious, very, very heavy, very significant. Okay, the reason all these foreigners are coming and saying, well, we urge restraint. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Notice their tone shifted to restraint all of a sudden when they were saying India has a right to respond. It's because India is going so maximalist right now that even it'll show restraint as a concession, which will be a halfway house, and tell all of them Pakistan better not retaliate, because if it does, it's war, and then your call for restraint is going to be nothing. So it is still going to be significantly greater than what happened at Balakot or Uri. I'm betting on naval action. I'm betting on, not that I'm ruling out air or ground action. It's just that naval action is going to be much more significant, because that is where the greatest power differential is.
Arun
But
Anandji, go ahead, Ajayji.
but Chamak Chalo, I mean, I love the name though. Um, if we postulate in the direction that you just came up with, see, we are looking at a situation where it is going to be very, very tough for us as well.
Yes.
I mean, these are
Yes.
very tough days going ahead, especially with the economic turbulence in the world right now. I mean, just prior to the debate that we started, Vita and I were speaking to each other before you guys had joined in. I was one of the early birds today. And I was just, we are at the verge of cracking a great deal with EU,
Mm.
at the verge of cracking other deals with people. Also, we have just about 2 months left to crack a deal with the America.
Mm.
Now, what is it that you're going to do when you get into a warlike situation, and especially when we have all these nutcases in Pakistan who can do anything just to justify their damn existence? It is going to be catastrophic for the economy and the country at large.
It may very well be catastrophic, because what happened was, people don't realize this, but the roots of the emergency in 1975 lay in the 71 war. You absorbed 10 million refugees, which was adding 33% to Bengal's population at the time. The war expenditure was ruinous. There was following the 1973 war, there was the Arab oil embargo, which further wrecked our economy. And it was in the wake of all of that, the social upheaval that was happening, that Indira Gandhi declared the emergency. Fine, the Allahabad High Court judgment may have been the trigger, but all the this thing was there. Do I fear that? Yes. But is our economy that fragile and weak at the moment as it was at that time? I think not. But will we all have to pay a price? Sure, we may not be at the front dying, but we all have to pay a price? Yes. I can't speak for others, but I guess, if you want something done, you kind of generally have to pay a price. I don't know how heavy the price is. I don't think anybody does, but the price has to be paid.
Well, those are difficult times then. We are really looking at, I mean, I would rather draw a parallel between 1929 and 1933.
Yeah,
We are looking at something like that.
something like that.
And if
Yeah,
we begin a war, God bless us, we are actually bringing in the
can,
catastrophic depression and the allied benefits thereafter.
can I
Drawbacks
just say,
thereafter.
all the modeling that we're seeing, and look, modeling can be wrong as well,
True.
but all the modeling we're seeing seems to indicate that we're going to put enough pressure on the Pakistanis psychologically, environmentally, in terms of mobilization and economically, that the Pakistanis will want to go first and be declared the aggressor. Remember, this is what happened in 71 as well. We never declared war. Uh, uh, Claiming that we were Mukti Bahini, we were already deep inside Bangladesh. And it was Pakistan that ultimately declared war by bombing the 9 western airfields, which very conveniently had been evacuated just in
Yes.
time. And that gave us casus belli to go in and do a full declaration of war, and then claim that the Indian army was in Bangladesh. Remember also, this is also not direct what is happening. When we actually start mobilization and move to the border, the Pakistanis will have to withdraw lots of units from Balochistan and the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa border. And the question really is, what do you think the Taliban, the highly secular feminist Taliban, might I add, and the Baloch secular Baloch freedom fighters, secular and feminist Baloch freedom fighters, what are they going to be doing? That is an aspect we haven't thought of before. It has been Pakistan's nightmare. They justified their destabilization of Afghanistan, citing this twofold threat.
Yes.
And today it seems that twofold threat is much, 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 much worse for Pakistan than it has ever been in Pakistan's history.
See, I completely agree with you, but we are also faced with a similar situation, if not anything less. Let's not face it. We are facing with the Chinese army face to face 50,000 plus.
Yeah.
Bangladesh is at the most destabilized situation as it could be.
Hmm.
Ms. Banerjee right now continues to be in Murshidabad, issuing statements that the BSF is doing shit all, instigating fights and stuff like that. You have a border state chief minister who's as rogue as that.
And, I agree with that completely, but we've kind of worked this into the modeling. And I just want to say this: in every single war game, we've done some 20, 30 war games with the Chinese and the Pakistanis in the past. One pattern that has always been consistent, without exception, is that every time Pakistan and us get into a simulated war, the Chinese never enter. In fact, they're quite lukewarm to the Pakistanis, and they're like, look, we'll fly you some help, but don't expect more from us. So that's with China. But when China and India get into a war, the Pakistanis always intervene. I think we
Yeah.
also need to look at Chinese literature right now, which has been sharply critical of Pakistan for the past 9 years for stalling and almost destroying. Not almost, they have destroyed the Pakistan-China
Yes.
economic corridor for all intents and purposes. But the thing was, Pakistan could still get away with certain things. Like, for example, lots of Uyghur terrorists who operate in China, Xinjiang, were found training in Pakistani camps. The Pakistanis would get away with that as well, as long as they could show they were worth the Chinese investment in nuclear bombs and JF-17s and
Yes.
J-10s and whatever, as long as they destabilize both Punjab and Kashmir. Fine, Punjab went out a decade and a half back, 2 decades back. Kashmir was still on the boil. Today, Pakistan has no case because China does not do allies. China likes highly reactionary radicals, free radicals, malignant free radicals who don't need Chinese help, who bog down the region completely. For example, how North Korea bogs down the whole of East Asia, how
Yeah.
Burma bogs down a lot of the, of course, the Burmese, I think, know how to negotiate with the Chinese better than the Americans or us or anybody else does, or how they use Laos to destabilize ASEAN and things like that. That is a very consistent pattern. And again, going back to the last time China entered some kind of a huge war, was the Korean War. And mind you, they did not, whenever MacArthur, it took MacArthur to get to the border of the Yalu River, which divided China and North Korea, for the Chinese to actually militarily intervene. So, there's a lot we can get away with the Chinese. We can be completely wrong. The modeling can be completely wrong. We may get a bloody nose and things like that. But, at some point, you've got to take certain risks. The question is, how well do you calibrate and account for those risks?
Okay, so things are moving right now. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned the Pahalgam terror attack in Kashmir and says that the military solution is not a solution. India and Pakistan must de-escalate. Now, interestingly, he has made no mention of Islamist terror, which is, I guess, expected. Any
Well,
comments?
that was evident in the last UN declaration also, vis-a-vis the Pahalgam attack, when the condemnations happened. So then also it was much different from the earlier condemnations. So UN obviously is doing the lip service that it is. No doubt, the government of India is itself within its own pressure of making and also of the economic power to take consummate action. The public opinion is obviously in favor of it, as exemplified very well numerous military options would have been done, and I'm sure most of the TV channels are already, running amok with their targeted missile comparisons and various other, which all cities will be bombed at the first go. But I still feel that maybe it's not always appropriate to just go for the gung ho. Many a times, stealthily or quietly, things can be done. Just imagine, I'm just putting out a case scenario. Let's assume that today you find Hafiz Saeed dead. Isn't that a much bigger moral victory to India than to attack a nation, defeat it, and then you again still have the same terrorist issues continuing? Let's face it, even if we obliterate Pakistan from the face of the earth, as exemplified by one of the MPs, you will still face terrorism. Pakistan is not just a state, it's a mindset. Today, the same mindset exists in Bangladesh. It
Yes.
will exist in some form or the other. You cannot obliterate a mindset. That's my small point. I would rather be happy with few targeted individuals dead than go at war. That's maybe possibly a wishful thinking, but that could be a good way of conveying your, reach and potential.
Yeah. Moving on, actually, from this to the kind of reactions that we've been seeing from opposition leaders, specifically from the Congress, wherein we had this situation wherein there was this poster, disgraceful poster of the Prime Minister.
Advaita, may I
Clearly,
take before that a minute to respond to Ajay?
okay, yeah,
Just
sure, go ahead. But
yeah.
just
See,
yeah.
Ajay, all the points which you're saying is true, and we have all gone through. But the point which you're talking of deterrence, that's the issue. What will cause a deterrence? I don't think even Afisai death is going to cause a deterrent. Our problem has been in the previous occasions, whatever, whether this 1971 war or the more recent Parakram or Pulwama or Balakot or any of those you say, there has been no follow through from us. In the US, for example, if they get rid of Osama bin Laden, that was something done, and thereafter, people have not bothered to do anything more. So, why a question of a strike does become important is you first strike, and in whatever form. I'm not suggesting that the exact form, but thereafter, the follow through has to be very clear. You do something, then you pull back, and then you again become good boys. People go to Lahore with the candle or wave flags at the Kashmir border. Then everything is back to square one. I think that is something which, in mobilization of opinion, public opinion, etc. I think that is what we have to get right this time. Okay, Advaita, please go ahead.
A second again, sorry, right?
Yeah, Ji,
I
very
completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. This Aman Ki Asha nonsense needs to be stopped once and for all. This bhaichara thing is very good in contextualizing, but it's not a deterrent. Please, Aditya.
yeah. Pallavi, we were just getting into the Congress reactions. We saw Ajay Rai with some sort of toy plane and Nimbu milk.
That was a Rafale.
Oh, well, could have fooled me. But and then you had this disgraceful poster of the Prime Minister with no head and saying Gayab. And it
See,
led
I
to
tell you what I think the Congress's plan is, and this is after I spoke to a large number of people within the Congress and even outside, is that, listen, it just goes back a little bit in time. In 2014, the narrative on which the Prime Minister became the Prime Minister and the Congress lost was that Dr. Manmohan Singh was a weak Prime Minister and there are just too many bomb blasts and terror attacks taking place, and this is a government which was not capable of dealing with terrorists. So that macho image was something which the Prime Minister Modi came on. And the PM would often, and in fact the Home Minister often, they do keep talking about the fact that look at the acts of terror, they've not been able to control it, but hamare time we've been able to control it. Now, horrible as it may sound, but in the Pahalgam terror, the Congress sees an opportunity to try and dent this perception about this government and about the Prime Minister. So what they're trying to do is they're repeatedly goading the government and the PM कि क्यों नहीं action किया? Because today I saw one of the Congress supporters tweet to say आज 13वीं है तो आज करना चाहिए था कुछ. No, so this is the kind of narrative that they are pushing, and they are saying that why is there so much of delay, why are there so many meetings being held, and kiski je intezar kar rahe ho. They also know very well, and they have been in government, and look at Manish Tiwari's piece today. It was not off the cuff. He understands strategic a little bit more than most of the Congresses do. You know, you cannot go to war because, oh, we're supposed to do something. There's so many factors. There's the economics of it, those background preparations, people who live in and around that area, villages, all of that. We don't know all of it, right? So the government has to take a lot of factors into consideration. But what the Congress's thing is, we'll goad them, make them look weak, that they are not able to retaliate. Itna time ho gaya. And even if when they retaliate, if they are casualties, then they'll say, see, so many people died, and you're talking about Modi being macho and so on and so forth. So it's a part of a very well thought out plan. Unfortunately, look, I refuse to believe that there have been 2 gag orders, 1 stern advisory. Priyanka Vadra retweets that advisory. And still, the Congress leaders like Channi was sitting at the press conference where Jairam Ramesh was, and he makes that comment. Ajay Rai ne kal bhi bola, and aaj bhi bole. So he was not pulled up. So they are playing the good cop, bad cop, that the top leadership will say, oh, we are supporting the government, and the rest of them will be allowed to get away. Because I also know this for a fact that the top leaders told that we have disciplinary action lenge. Anyone who speaks out of line, what disciplinary action have you taken? Has anyone said anything to Ajay Rai? No. So Ajay Rai's comments were picked up by ARI News in Pakistan and beamed. And the whole day, the Congress has been silent. So I refuse to believe that this is just off the cuff. I'm beginning to feel that this is very much planned. It's a part of a strategy, and it's a strategy which boomerangs.
Arunji, this is it's kind of crazy, right? I mean, Congress has these kind of disparate reactions. Their top leadership is trying to play it like statesmen, but I won't even say the rank and file. I mean, the leaders who are coming out with this kind of nonsense are people who stood for elections, who are on TV, who are closely associated with the Congress and its leadership, and are just saying the most absurd things. Do they not read the room?
Yeah. See, the thing is that, you know, it was I don't see, you know, that you would expect a different thing from Congress. They have done this in the past, and you know, they are also quoting basically the Modi government because they saw that after Balakot, the stand which they had took, it caused them politically, you know, very heavily. So, but I think there is a problem of, you know, credibility of Congress, because it also matters. वो कहा जाता है ना कि कौन क्या बोल रहे हैं वो important तो है ही, लेकिन कौन बोल रहा है वो भी important है. So, you know, when I say कि सत्य बोलना चाहिए, and when, you know, महात्मा गांधी और से सत्य बोलना चाहिए, तो बात तो वही होती है, लेकिन कौन कह रहा है बात, इस चीज का बड़ा फर्क पड़ता है. So one is that. Second is, you know, I think BJP also needs to, you know, buckle up basically to build two things. One is basically a counter narrative to what Congress is doing. And second is also basically, you know, to build its own narrative, to build the country's narrative. See, there are two things. One is basically a narrative and one is a counter narrative. So very often in today's politics, what happens that, you know, political parties are getting involved more in counter narratives than basically in narratives. What Congress is doing is basically it is building a narrative, as Pallavi had pointed out. Now, BJP has to, you know, work on two fronts. One is that it has to counter that narrative, because it has come from the political party, so it is not the responsibility primarily of the government to counter that narrative. It is primarily the responsibility of the Bharatiya Janata Party to counter that narrative. But simultaneously, you also have to build a narrative. What is your narrative? I think because that narrative is not visible so robustly, so that is why, you know, the opposition is getting space to build these kind of narratives, which are
But you
detrimental.
know, Arunji, I actually think that the narrative that the Congress is building is backfiring on them. It's not working.
See, one thing is there, you know, there is, if you look at the number of, Congress still has, you know, got 20% vote share. And if you also look at, you know, the overall number of people who voted for the BJP and the overall number of people who did not vote for the BJP. So the number of people who did not vote, there is a substantial chunk of people basically who don't like BJP, who don't like anything about BJP, who are going to go to any extent. So this is going to get basically amplified further. And interestingly, I don't know whether you have just for the information of the viewers, the statement made by Ajay Rai has been picked up by the Pakistani media, and the Pakistani media is now basically playing it out. So that basically, now I also have another problem with the mainstream media outlets. I have been part of the media. I'm still a part of the media. So all of us are. See, who is Ajay Rai? Ajay Rai is a person basically who has lost multiple elections. वो आदमी तमाशा कर रहा है राफेल के सामने, जो है वो नींबू और मिर्ची बांध के. सो व्हेन द मीडिया शोज इट अप सो मच, मीडिया को इतना ज्यादा जब आप दिखाएंगे, नेक्स्ट टाइम ही विल कम आउट एंड डू मोर ब्रेजन थिंग्स, एंड कांग्रेस विल डू मोर ब्रेजन थिंग्स. So there are certain things. Supriya Shinade, I understand basically she is the official, spokesperson. But you look at her record, because media also needs to bring that out. That she lost her deposit in Maharashtra in 2019 elections. They do not have any clue basically what is happening on the ground, what is the sense of this thing on the ground. So I think it's a sad state of affairs that Congress is doing this thing, but the media also has to downplay these kind of things, because and what happens, Ajay Rai does something, somebody probably from BJP will give even a more brazen reply that will be highlighted. So now this is a vicious cycle which we are witnessing. Next time Congress will do even more brazen thing, and somebody from BJP probably will do even more brazen thing. So this vicious cycle, who is getting hurt? The national interest is getting hurt. So I think this vicious cycle, if you need to stop it, the media also has to have a consensual approach. That we will not show. आज आप जो है अजय राय का मत दिखाइए, कल से वो इस तरीके की स्टेटमेंट देना आदमी बंद कर देगा, या जिस तरीके की भी स्टेटमेंट. द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट वन मीडिया हाउस और टू मीडिया हाउसेस विल शो. Media is also basically running after TRP, and they're not looking at the national interest. I'm sorry to say this, but that is the case basically, and they are as much part of goading the government to go for war, as any other opposition party is. So I think, but I think probably what Congress has done, I agree with Pallavi. It's a good cop bad cop kind of a basically thing which they are playing out. And now let's see basically how BJP counters it effectively, or going way forward. What is the media stand on it?
AIM, I'm coming to you now. Very quickly, of course, our viewers know I'm from Uttarakhand, so I track things there very carefully. There was a terrible incident wherein a young girl, a 12-year-old girl, a child really, a school child, was lured by a 65-year-old Muslim man in Nainital.
73-year-old.
73. Okay, this gets even better. I'm being sarcastic here because it's just so disgusting and appalling. And he lures her and rapes her. Okay, so this happened, and this is not isolated. There is an increasing trend of these kind of incidents in Uttarakhand, in my part of Uttarakhand also, which is Garhwal, also up in the hills, and you have seen incidents of communal tension which were unheard of in the state, like in Pori city. You saw town, you've seen these kind of incidents take place. So now it's pretty much spreading across the state, and it's not isolated is what I'm trying to tell you. But immediately on News Laundry, there was a podcast or something of that sort which chose to focus on the reaction of the local public, which was to target Muslim-owned shops and have them shut down, and those kind of that rage that spills onto the streets, which is of course not right either. But when these are happening everywhere, you're seeing people come out on the street in sheer frustration, because remember, in Uttarakhand, the men go out to work because there aren't any job opportunities. So they're mostly female-led households, and they're taking care of work, the farm, the children, and all of those things. So News Laundry gets on live, and their editor says that, oh, this was like some small incident, and what they did with those shops, oh my god, that was the main thing, that was the big deal. This sort of trivializing AIM just makes me so angry.
It wasn't just trivializing. He said a boyfriend and a girlfriend had an affair. Okay, now we can condemn. Nobody, no innocent person should have their livelihood ransacked like what happened in Nainital. Okay, that doesn't mean you normalize it saying that was a boyfriend and a girlfriend. Now, this story that they put out an apology after using their apology to ask for more funds. If you support honest journalism, please subscribe to News Laundry. We apologize for calling it boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Anyway, so what has happened with that is the fellow who made that statement and the two people with him, they had read up all about the violence, but not the cause for the violence. Okay, but they decided to do a show on it. Now, the guy who said it, the baldy, I forget his name, he has a history.
Raman Kripal.
Raman Kripal has a history of fabrication. He has been convicted by a court for defamation. It was a 1994 case where he concocted an interview. And finally, the courts in 2000 and something found that he was indeed guilty. 15, 20 years down the line, they found him guilty. He had to apologize and pay a 1 lakh rupee fine. Still not commensurate with the damage he caused. Now, knowing his antecedents, which are publicly available, he was still hired by News Laundry. But then there is something else. This is a 2014 letter that the CEO of that company, Abhinandan Sekhri's sister, Nirupama Sekhri, who seems just as sick up in the head as he does, has written to Tarun Tejpal's victim. I'm just going to read out some extracts and you tell me this entire family isn't thick in the head, thick pervert. Dear Miss Tehelka assault victim. Quiet. Dear Miss Tehelka assault victim. Now that the melee around your case has cooled and our rabidly reactionary media has chosen other issues to target, this may be the right time to open up. To begin with, I would like to establish quite clearly that I do not see you as the victim unless it is of bubblegum feminism. They published this. I will go on to read some more. Yet, in all fairness, in the one-way fury that has been unleashed on him in response to this incident, he has become the victim, not you. But my concern for Tejpal's victimization is not personal. I'll go ahead. Also, like Tejpal, some or many have ruffled enough feathers to induce gleeful vendetta against them in cases of allegations such as yours. You have put them all at risk. This is the sister of Abhinandan Sekhri writing this. Okay, let me read some more gems from there. Shows how blithely irresponsible people like yourself can rip reputations apart, can have lives spat and stamped upon much before the veracity of your allegations have been established. So in their defense and the defense of women like me who are alarmed at cases like yours are coming to celebrate feminism, it is only fair to ask you some questions. She asked by saying, it is mystifying to me you were chosen to travel a second time on the lift with a man who had already misbehaved with you the first time. I put the link up. Please go read it. This is the rantings of a sick pervert. But then it is par for the course for News Laundry.
I don't understand why, when there is an accusation, would you feel the need to interrogate an alleged victim? Sure, there's a court process which needs to be followed. But why would you take it upon yourself to be the inquisitor, and to carry out this inquisition? Why did you go to the elevator? Why did you not?
No. She has already passed judgment. She is not inquisitor. She is judge. She says right at the beginning, I do not consider you the victim. The second paragraph, she says Tarun Tejpal is the victim.
I mean, in a very nutshell, a number of people mentioned both Abhinandan and Raman Kripal. Abhinandan has also worked with me, so has Raman Kripal in my two different stints at India Today. I can only say one thing which we discussed last time while we were talking in Hindi. It's a very highly incestuous confabulation of a small group which believes that they have the right to be right all the time. I think I have said everything that I should.
I think
And
going forward, I agree with Ajay ji and what Abhijit ji said. See, the larger question is we have been part of the newsrooms. The larger question now is basically what do you do with these media outlets? So they do things, they get away with it. These editors then become part of the Editors Guild of India also. So going ahead, way forward, basically. So मतलब क्या इलाज किया जाए so that these kind of things do not happen again, because we will discuss it, then we'll criticize them, but something has to be basically done, because this is preposterous basically what they have done on news laundry and this kind
कुंठित
of.
मानसिक बहुत आई मीन सॉरी मैं इंटरजेक्ट कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन ये जो कुंठित मानसिकता वाले लोग हैं ये सिर्फ गांव देहात में नहीं पाए जाते हैं जहां रूढ़िवाद बहुत फैलता है. ये कुंठित मानसिकता उन पढ़े लिखे लोगों में ज्यादा होती है जिनकी बपौती है कि वो पैदाइशी इंटेलेक्चुअल है. ये जो पैदाइशी इंटेलेक्चुअल है इनको
बात
रोकना
वही है कि
मुश्किल.
इनका जो है, आई थिंक अभिजीत जी एंड अद्वैता जी कैन कम इन बेसिकली दैट see, self regulation is not working out for Indian media. Let's be very clear about it. The problem is also that we don't want government to interfere also, because वो फिर emergency वाली situation हो जाएगी जो है. So what is the way out basically? I think that is what worries me, and especially जो generations हमारी आगे आ रही हैं, the generations which are coming, who are coming out from journalism schools, who will become part of the media and this thing. So the kind of legacy basically which is being left for them, and it is, see, an independent media is required for a healthy democracy. But where does this independence stop? Who is going to stop that? How do we tame these kind of people? How do we fix the accountability? See, accountability and transparency. Anything, basically any sector, if you don't have accountability and transparency, that thing is not going to work. That's basically a broken sector. So this is what we are witnessing. See, whether it is, and not only this, on a number of issues we've seen journalists like Rana Ayub, peddling disinformation, misinformation. There are a lot of this thing. So there are journalists who Anand Vijay ji was telling कि Hindenburg पे बात करनी है तो हिंडन नदी पे चले जाते हैं. So there is a bunch of these journalists who are peddling this thing, और बहुत ही मतलब it's an embarrassment sometimes when I have to call myself a journalist in these times, if these are the kind of people basically who are doing journalism.
And the interesting thing, Arun,
Advaita ji, Abhijit ji, I think we can talk a little bit about what is the way forward basically, and then how to fix the accountability, and
but before that, I just want to say, this media is always going on about nepotism in Bollywood, nepotism here, nepotism there, and it's true, it exists. No one's going to deny that. But yesterday, I met this young journalist, and I was at the Delhi Lit Fest. I had a conversation with Taslima Nasreen. Guys, do watch it; very interesting. But I was with this young journalist, and we were chatting, and he was like saying that how he's feeling blocked in his career. And I said, why? I mean, I said, you're just starting out or whatever. And then he says, well, I just don't know enough people. So I said, you don't know enough people? And he's like, yeah, in this business, in journalism, you have to know the right people. So there you go. So this is where the camps come from. This is where the narratives come from. This is where the you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back comes from. So to me, it's very obvious what's happening here.
See, that is what I'm saying. That the problem is that if you let this incident go away, you will get
I need to leave, but I'll just say one thing. There is example across the world as to how you can maintain balance and semblance of rationality when it comes to media. Let's look at UK. Ofcom is not such a bad regulation out there. You cannot show a dead body. You cannot, abuse women left, right, and center as you do it. There are ways of speech, words which you can or cannot use. It's a huge. I mean, आप खाली ऑफकॉम एक बार पढ़ के देखो. It tells you exactly what can be and what cannot be done. In India, unfortunately, whenever people like us talked about Ofcom, I was part of NBSA, now NBDSA. I was there as the committee, which also I was also part of the committee that adjusts people, where cases are put up and lawyers come in, and we have a former Supreme Court judge who actually heads the committee. And you know what happens? Nothing. Why? Because nothing is regulated. And why do we want it regulated? Because let's face it, the owners of the media houses do not want this. They don't want regulation. And regulation of Ofcom is not even read by 0.1% of journalists working in India. It's a Bible that we have written. भाई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाने के लिए भी तो अम्बेडकर साहब और बाकी सब लोगों ने दुनिया भर के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पढ़े थे. हमें क्या दिक्कत है? हम क्यों नहीं कर सकते? There is no will, let's face it. And the government's hands is tied because it cannot force it. I mean,
Right.
It's a very simple thing. I will just advocate, even if when you have the time, please go ahead and read it. I have read it thrice.
Over 1,500 live with us on a Monday evening during prime time. I'm very impressed because this is like prime time viewing.
This shows you the state of Indian mainstream media.
Shit, you're taking away a lot from lots of primetime anchors right now. I better not be part of it. The fraternity will disown me.
But Abhijit, what's your opinion? Basically,
I'll chat take Thank you. Bye.
What's your opinion? Abhijit, what's your opinion going ahead? Basically, what should be done to, and especially, let's say, take this case as an as a case in the point, and let's say going ahead, what should be, condemnation is fine, thing is fine, basically, but how do we deal with people like these?
What do you? I'm very scared of any kind of official censorship. At the same time, at wartime, you have to have censorship. There is no other way. Even countries that are under perpetual emergency like Israel, which are much more liberal under emergency than we are when we are not under emergency, will still enforce military censorship when military operations are around. I think the main thing here is restrict censorship to the military, पर हमारी बात कौन सुनता है भाई? I'm dismissed as a deluded absolute liberal who does not believe in censorship and things. अब मेरी बात कौन सुनेगा? तो वैसे भी मेरा opinion sort of irrelevant है.
I think जो है, where is Advaita ji?
Yeah.
अद्वैता जी ठीक है. अद्वैता जी, मुझे लगता है कि एक इसके ऊपर थोड़ा सा एक डिटेल डिस्कशन जो है ना, आई थिंक प्रोबेबली दैट्स माय सजेशन. इट्स अ लार्जर एंड इट्स गोइंग टू बिकम वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बेसिकली,
We shall do.
basically, to have, because everybody is consuming. You see your security guard at the this thing, you go to the villages, everybody is consuming basically this mainstream media through YouTube channels.
Yep.
So they might not be watching television, but they're watching news.
Yeah.
So whatever
I'm
we are
feeling very powerful today. I'm feeling very powerful today, guys, because prime time usually, we've been 7 p.m. Mers on Sundays, not competing with anybody. But here you go. This is a revelation. But listen, please do like, share, subscribe. I always forget to say those three things. Chamak Chalo, do you want to tell your fans also, because you have very loyal and rabid fans?
Yes, please like, share, subscribe. गाली भी देना हो तो गाली दे देना, वो भी हमारे ये comments section में ना, it helps the algorithm. So जम के गाली दो, no problem, but definitely put it. Don't just ideate it in your mind. या ऐसे ही और भी लिखो.
This is for me. This is for me. And Abhijit is also caused by Galidas. So
Yes.
Abhijit, no one sponsors us because of the smoking and all of those things. In fact,
Yes.
somebody told me reach out to gutka makers because of Abhijit and Suhail. I mean, gutka. If there's any gutka king watching our show,
we should reach out to cigarette sponsors they're not allowed to sponsor cigarettes. But Fiamma de Wills can sponsor soap and shampoo and things like that.
Yeah,
And
and
make
I've
a
got
very
great
good
hair.
shampoo model, as
I
you
have
can
great
see.
hair. Abhijit has
I have
no
better hair than you.
Yeah,
It's just
no, you
not
are.
but please do that. And also, if you all like, share, and subscribe, I will do my special rendition of my national anthem, Amar Shonar Bangla, because I'm Bangladeshi. So I will do my national anthem, Amar Shonar Bangla, special rendition next time.
Arunji wants to say something to that.
No. I just it's. I think I've been with Abhijit for the first time on a show. So
Oh no!
yeah. I've been there. We generally don't. Well, Abhijit ji also doesn't go too much for shows. I also don't go too much for shows. So I think so probably. So I've been listening to him with very apt attention and.
If anyone wants to, we are starting a crowdfunding for Arunji for the trauma that he's experienced.
No,
So
not at all. No, not at all. No, it's always interesting, the way this conversation is carried forward and this thing. See, we talk more about issues rather than, projecting ourselves as, the connoisseur of all the knowledge which is there in the world. So I think that's better. You conduct it so well. और
Thank
अच्छा
you.
हम लोग को एक दूसरे की तारीफ करते रहनी चाहिए.
Bilkul.
Yeah. We're a very happy family. Okay, thank you everybody. Do like, share, subscribe, and we will be back soon. And thank you for your feedback on the Hindi show. We will do more of those, especially because Abhijit can't be in those. So we look forward to hosting more Hindi shows.
मैं बहुत अच्छा हिंदी बोलते हैं. मैं यूक्रेन से आए इन्वेडर हैं, पर मैं तुम लोगों का जो जंगली नेटिव्स हैं, मैं तुम्हारा भाषा अच्छा
He left.
मेरा हिंदी बहुत अच्छा है. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe करता हैं. Okay, टाटा बाय.
You're getting proposition.
Thank you. कितना पैसा है तेरे पास, फिर मैं तेरा चमक छल्लू दूंगा.
Not that kind of show. Not that kind of show. Bye everyone. Talk to you soon. Take care.